Ann, what do you do?
Hey, good to see you, Dylan. What do I do? I work with entrepreneurs, mostly in the professional space, who want to really build a high end premium business so that they can work less and make more. So I really help them 3 to 10 times their revenue and be a lot more profitable, but not work on a volume method. So at a
Got it.
higher scale. Yeah.
So are these new consultants, coaches that are coming in? Are these more that they currently already have something going on? What's that like?
It can be both. Most of the clients that I work with already have things going on and they really want to level up their business. So they want to get more visible. They want to be seen more as an authority. They want to bring in more premium clients and grow that way. So they're winning those big deals, those $100,000, $400,000 deals. So that's one side. And then the other side is I work with people that truly are experts. So maybe they're coming from some sort of a career, they've got this expertise, this brilliance, and I help them really package, market, sell, and build a business around that, a coaching and consulting business, some sort of a service business, anything where they're doing professional services.
Love it. Okay, cool. This is going to be an interesting one today then. So I want to take you through that. I want to see the ideation and everything on that end. I want to create $1 million consulting business, all right, this year.
Yeah.
Let's break that down step by step. So whenever I'm your client here and I want to go through how would we first identify that niche?
So the first thing that I look at when I work with somebody is where is your expertise and what
Hmm,
does that look like? What are the skill sets? So a lot of people would teach pick one thing and go all in on that. But I don't believe that if you have a lot of experience and expertise, you have to do that. But you do need to come up with something that's all encompassing. So let's say you're great at market. For example, I say I'm an A to Z coach or consultant. I can do everything from your business model, your revenue model, what are you going to sell, and help you put together those packages and those offers to the marketing side of it, to the sales side of it, to the scale side of it. So building that team, automation, all those things. So that's A to Z. And that came from many years of experience, 30 plus years of experience as an entrepreneur, building multiple businesses. So the first thing I look at is okay, what do you have to bring to the table? What do you have to offer? And then where does that best fit into the market? First of all, we want to really okay, what can be the highest value because I help people work at the higher end of their business and bring in premium clients. So where is the most value that we can package, market and sell? And do you like that? Are you good at it? Do you like it? So it's really your area of brilliance, your area of expertise. And then how can we put those pieces together? Once we figure out what that's going to be, we want to decide who is that for. And if you've already been doing things, even if you're coming from a career, you probably have a network, you have people that you're connected to, you've been working in some sort of a maybe an industry. So we look at what is really the low hanging fruit, what is the easiest, the least, the path of least resistance, really. And do we need to niche in that? Does that make sense to niche in that? And if the answer is yes, then that's where we get started. And a lot of people think niching, just to clarify, they think niching down means, oh, you can't work with other people. It's strictly from a marketing standpoint because you can't go after everybody. And you can't get the marketing piece right if you're not clearly speaking the language that's going to be relevant or you don't have the offers that are relevant to the people that you're trying to attract and trying to get on as clients. So you've got to pick a lane.
Could you give me an example on that end on how a niche would work and when it wouldn't work?
Yeah, I think when we talk about a niche, there's money in every niche. And so it really comes down to if what you're putting together, is it going to be relevant for that audience? I don't know that there's a niche really that wouldn't work. It's just you have to make sure the pieces that of what you're putting together will work for that niche. So if you want to go after people in the healthcare industry, speaking to them in IT language isn't going to make sense, and you want to be able to really call out the people that you're wanting to work with so that they know that you're for them. And then you want your offer to be relevant. What problems are you solving for them? What is that expertise and that brilliance that you're bringing? What makes you different from everyone else out there solving those problems? And then once you do that, once you figure those foundational pieces out, then you can put together the marketing pieces. A lot of people, Dylan, start with marketing. It's okay. I think this is what I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be a consultant. This is what I'm going to sell. And they start with the marketing, but they don't even really know if their offer is going to be relevant for that industry, for that type of client. And you have to really understand the client so you know how to put the pieces together. So you can either, there's two ways to do it. You can look at your expertise and start with your offer and then say, okay, who would this be perfect for? Or you can start with the niche and then say, okay, how can I put an offer together for them? So there's not a right or a wrong here. It could be either or, but those two pieces need to be done before you can do anything else, before you can sell, even before you can price really. Because here's a good example. When I first came into the coaching space, I was with a company and they had this whole pitch. I can teach you how to we can find $10,000 for you in 45 minutes. Okay, that might sound great to a startup business owner that doesn't have any money yet. But that's not going to sound great to a contractor that's making millions of dollars a year. And so that's a perfect example of things not matching the audience and what you're trying to help people do. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of somebody was talking about marketing on different platforms and pushing it out to, let's just say, was going crazy on TikTok and trying to their avatar was not on TikTok. Their avatar was
Exactly.
like LinkedIn, and they're talking to a totally different audience and wasn't able to get sales, even though they were putting in all that effort into the wrong
Exactly.
platform, the wrong messaging.
Yeah, and we're talking about a strategy there. So but before this is where people want to jump right to the marketing. Oh, I'm going to be on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm going to be on TikTok. Oh, I think I'll do YouTube. I think I'll be on Facebook. Oh, let's do a Facebook group. This happens all the time, right? But they really don't stop and think about, okay, but is my person there? Is that how I can reach that person? What is the best way to reach them? And if you don't know who those people are, then you don't that's part of the first part of a marketing strategy is you have to know who are you trying to reach? What is it you're trying to sell them? What's the end game here that you're trying to accomplish? And most people don't start with these pieces. And so they're like, "Oh, I think I want to sell this." And so I'm going to get out there and I'm going to go over here when it doesn't make any sense. So that's why it's really important to do things in sequence. And a lot of people don't know to do that. So if you're starting a coaching or consulting business, figure out who you most want to work with. Figure out what it is you have to offer them. Is it something they will want? Is it something they will need? Is it something in the case where I'm working with clients, is it something they'll pay big dollars for? That's where we
Mm,
want to go. That's where I want to go with my clients. And then once we determine that, okay, now how can we get to them? How can we put the marketing strategy in place to get to them? So the next piece then would be what we call market positioning. And this is where you start building that online really foundation of the outside perception people have of you and your business. So if you look at me across all social media channels or you Google me, you're going to see that I help people build premium businesses. I help them get really high end clients. I help them build that $1 million business with a handful of premium clients. You're going to see that across the board. My message is congruent everywhere. You can go to my website, you'll see the same thing. This is an important piece and why you have to really decide where you want to play because this you want to start building that strong market positioning so that you look like the only person who does what you do in the way that you do it. And that's how you stand out. That and then from there you want to start building up that online visibility, that being seen as a thought leader, being seen as the best. I teach speaking, get on stages, do virtual speaking, lots of ways to do that. How are you going to build up that authority and that visibility in the market? And then, but you also need that's your foundational piece of your marketing. But then you also need a marketing system to actually be able to get in front of these people, attract them, pull them in, get them to book on your calendar. And so a lot of people don't realize there's two sides to marketing. There's what I call the influence system. That's your branding, your positioning in the market, what people are seeing. And then there is your marketing system that's bringing in revenue. And there's two sides, and I see most people are doing one or the other, not both. So you have to congruently do both, and then, of course, you have to be able to close those high-end sales, And so that would be the next piece that I would work with someone on is, okay, how do you close these? How do you do proposals or how do you do agreements versus proposals? All of those pieces. And then also to scale, let's add more revenue streams, let's automate, build your team. What are all the things that are going to help you grow this? So, $1 million business, I would say, okay, what's the most, if you think about everything that you have to offer and that we decide who that's for, what do you want to charge them? What do you feel like you could charge them and get it? It makes sense. It has to make sense. And if you said 50,000, I would say, great, that's 20 clients. Let's put the plan in place to get you 20 clients. That's where we would start.
Gotcha. So what do you base that on? Is it you're gonna bring X amount of value to that one client, and that's how I price it based on what they're gonna make over the next 12 months? Or how's that priced?
Yeah, that's a great question. It can change depending on who it is who you are targeting. So, because I do help people make money and that I help them grow their business, that would be the value that I would bring to them is how to help them do that, how to help them build that $1 million business with a handful of clients. But it could even be someone teaching how to not get a divorce. It could be a marriage coach. It doesn't matter. It's about the value of the clients that you're targeting. What is it worth to them? And then also, what is it worth? It could be over time. I call it impact pricing. So let's say I go in and I work with a sales team in a company and everything that I help them put in place, the systems, the messaging, that I train them, I teach them everything. Let's say that it can help a company get $1 million bump. They're going to get that the next year and the next year. So in that case, you could impact price and build out an offer that could be a 2 or a 3-year plan based on the impact that you're gonna get them over that 2 or 3 years. You could do it by percentage. So there's a lot of different ways it can be done, and this is where experience comes in from me doing this with so many people, helping them figure these things out. Because most of the time, people are not overcharging, they're undercharging. Most of the time, they cannot see all the value that they can bring to a client, and even if they in their gut know that, "Wow, I can really help my clients achieve this," they still don't know how to package it. They still don't know how to articulate that sale and get that client to see it. The client has to see the value, not just you, but the client has to see it as well. A good
Yeah, yeah.
example of this is a CFO that might go into a company and let's say they could save a company $1 million in taxes a year. Okay, that could be a 3-year plan. So then you could impact price. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
With that though, that amount that they're saving them, what would you suggest you purchase or price at consulting at, I guess I would say?
Let's just use the example of a CFO. They go into a company, they know their stuff, they know what to look for, and they say to the CEO, I know right now you have $1 million in taxes that could go right into your bank account. And I know how to get it. I know how to get it for you. They could charge half of that. It's all money that the company wouldn't have had. So realistically, they could say, I'll come in, you don't pay us anything. We'll find what we find. We'll make sure you get this money back. We'll make sure you get this tax refund, and you're going to pay us half of whatever gets refunded. That would be one way to price something like that because it's still money to the company that they would not have had, that they didn't have or didn't know about.
That's no out of pocket. That's really good, and
Right.
it's a payday as well. That's really smart. Do you have people actually doing that kinda stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with a client who did expense management and he could go into hospitals, for example, and he had, because he had resources and relationships with different vendors and things like that, he could get discounts for them. And so he actually would set them up on a plan. Whatever I am able to save you a month, I get half, you get half. It was gravy to them. It was money that they wouldn't have had they not been working with him. And so he did that and he would usually put them on a 3-year minimum agreement and he would just save them money month after month and he could show because without him they would be paying this amount of money. With him they're paying this amount of money. So he would get he would get money off the money he saved. So, yes, that can be done actually very easily with companies.
Yeah, and at that point, that's a no-brainer. That's a great offer at that point.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. And again, they don't have any they're not out anything unless you save them or unless you get that tax return or whatever. But it could be the same way if you are helping people make money. Where are you at? If I can help you implement these things and we can get you a 10% bump, for example, let's say you have a $10 million company, and I know for a fact I can help you get a minimum 10% bump with what I know. And we track that, and I get 30% of whatever extra over and above this amount you bring in. There's all kinds of ways to price like that. So there's not a one size fits all. These things all have to be figured out. And also, if a company's too big, they don't necessarily want to go off of percentages. So there's just a lot of factors. So it's a little difficult to get into the details, but this is really how you impact price.
Love it. Okay, I wanna back up a little bit here too now. Back to the offer creation, because this is actually something I'll give you a little quick pitch too on my end. I've helped I can't say I've done consulting, but I've helped a few friends with their businesses over the last few years, and I've also built up a few small businesses to 7 figures over the last 6, 7 years now. Been dabbling in stuff like that. Now, I say I retired when I turned 2 years ago, but I dabble in things. I invest on the side and things. I was thinking of creating an offer or something where I could help people because I get a lot of questions and people ask me, "What do you do? How did you do it?" And I did it all through like real estate and investing, but I did it in a different way. Now I more so just focus on like strategic business. And that's just what I enjoy improving and giving my input on things. With that being said, I'd love to know what are the questions that you would be asking me to articulate an offer?
Yeah. So I would want to find out, first of all, what are you really great at?
Yeah.
What are some results that you've had before? Who do you want to work with? So those would be some of the basic main questions that I would find out. So business owners is too vague. You
Yep.
have to dial it in. Again, it goes back to we can't create the message and the marketing piece if you don't have the who dialed in because the message will be off. The offer will be off. And so those would be the first things. Who do you really want to work with? Who do you have access to? Because I'm all about, okay, how can I help you get the fastest results? And so who do you have access to? What would be things that they would respond to or want? What kind of value can you bring to them? Why should they hire you over somebody else? And so that offer has to be really irresistible. So what are the pieces that you would put into that offer? To really make that, robust and for them to say, "Oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer." For example, if I can help somebody bring in a client that closed a $413,000 client. If I can help her bring in a $413,000 client, what can I charge somebody? And so all has to make sense. It has to be relevant. And that's just one. She could go do that again and again. So those would be the questions that I would first find out is results that you've had, who have those been for? Why are you different? What makes you better? What would be that positioning that we could use in the market? And then you have to be able to really show people, hey, this is what I've done and this is how I do it. And you have to be able to walk people through your process. My process, in a nutshell, 4 steps. It's redesign your revenue model, it's revamp your marketing, restructure your sales process, and rev up your revenue. That is put into sort of a visual of a pyramid. And those are the 4 steps. Now, within each of those steps, there's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of moving parts. But I like to call them buckets. What are the buckets that you're going to take people through that are kind of high level? And then within each of those buckets, there's a lot of details and nuances and things like that. But they have to be able to see what are the areas you work in. So that's how I help people create those offers. Like, let's
Love it.
take
So
all
we
of your brilliance.
Yeah. So we have our offer created now. We know how we're different, how we're gonna stand out, and what we help people with. So now what goes into the funnel creation at that point? Because I know people start off as simple as, "Hey, book a call here," or they have these crazy funnels that go forever onto something else. So I'd love to know how what you suggest, where you start at, and what you go from.
Yeah, that completely depends on who you're trying to reach. Because and by the way, funnels, like the traditional funnels, let's sell something really low and then let's ascend people. No, it's let's sell something really high, and then if they can't buy that, you move them down. It's the opposite.
Mhm.
It's a top-down approach. The reason for that is because people that are at a high level, which is where I help people work, play in the I call it blue ocean. They're playing in the top 30% of an industry, not the mainstream where everyone else is. They do not go through funnels in the same traditional way. And so you have to know, how can I best reach them? So I like to use high impact marketing strategies. This could be I'm interviewing like actually interviewing your clients, your potential clients. It could be that could be through a podcast, that could be I'm writing a book, I'm writing an article, I'm getting published. Speaking is another way, getting on stages or virtual speaking. Those are high impact marketing strategies. So it's really about you stepping up, you being the expert, you being seen, you being heard, and then having the strategy behind that to actually get to have conversations with the people that you want. That's the kind of funnel. So I use those high impact marketing strategies. I have several of them. Virtual events, that's another one, but not virtual events in the way that a lot of people do them. Virtual events in the way that you're vetting the room, you're pulling exactly the people in that you want in the room. So it's a very different model. Podcasting, how to go after getting there's a whole strategy that we use, both guesting and also hosting in podcasting to get to these high level people. That's the kind of funnel that we use. And it can be as simple as even outreach, sharing a case study, sharing a piece of content that would pull that person in to book a call. Those people do not want to go through, they don't want to jump through hoops. Don't make up, they're not, they want fast, they're buying speed, they're buying a shortcut. If I have to go buy a little bitty course before I ever get to work with you, Dylan, I'm not interested in that. That's not the way I buy, and it's not the way high level people buy. And this is a huge mistake people make in the industry is they think everything's about a funnel. It is a funnel, everything's a funnel, right? But not in the traditional way. Send them to a landing page, get them to opt in. A high level CEO may never opt in for something, but they might watch a 10-minute video of you
Mm.
sharing pain points and walking through why they need this and then what your call to action is. Book a call. So you still need to warm up your audience and you still need to warm up those leads and generate those leads, but it's just different. You don't ask them to jump through a million hoops to do it.
So they don't need to go through a low ticket funnel or
No, in fact, they won't do
yeah,
that. Yeah.
that caliber
Mm,
of client's not gonna do something like that, and I can attest to that. I don't sign up for any of that stuff. Even when I'm interested in that stuff, I'm like,
exactly.
I just want in somebody's funnel, like, I get that. I'd rather just pay to be done and have a conversation with
Yeah.
you and then be done.
Is
I'm fine.
that why? I can learn from my competitors. Like, I can learn something. So I will because I that might be something that I want to put into my no, I'm not saying copy people, I'm not saying that, but if I can pick up a nugget here that somebody knew that I didn't know. So for me, it's research. And it's
Mhm.
making me better at my skills. But if I am buying, I absolutely will not go through a funnel. People can reach right out to me on LinkedIn. And if they are saying the right thing at the right time to me, I will get on a call with them or I'll go look at. And here's the other thing that when we talked about the positioning, the market positioning, the outside perception, these people will check you out. This is why the positioning is so important. It's so essential that you get that piece in before you ever start marketing. Because once you start getting visible, people will check you out. Once you start reaching out or getting in front of the person that you most want to bring on as a client, they will check you out behind your back. You will never know. And if you don't have strong positioning, if you look like a jack of all trades, if you look like you're running 10 different things, that does not that doesn't build confidence or trust in them, and they will not choose you. But they will if they see the right things. They'll when people book on my calendar, they'll say, "Ann, I already know you're the person that can help me. I came across this, and then I went and checked you out, and then I saw this, and then I saw this." And they never went through my funnel. They're not on my email list. They they just see what they like, they see what they need, and they book and they buy. And that is the way these people buy, and a lot of people are not teaching this. And that's why people are getting low value clients and not getting the fees they want, and all of those things.
It's not flashy. Nowadays, it's everything what sells. Everybody's selling the same thing. They're just packaging it up in a different way. And it's not the flashy, quick money that everybody wants now. Nobody has the attention span to actually do the right thing and what
Right.
attract people that they want to attract.
Exactly. And they make all
Yeah.
that sound so easy, but hey, I have worked with if I can take somebody making $1,700 for 90 days and turn them into somebody that gets $50,000 clients, working a couple hours a month with that client, that's a significant bump. That is a significant change in their business. And that's what happens over and over again because, again, I work with people that know their stuff. They know what they're doing. They really are great at what they do. They've fallen into all of these online strategies and sort of these traps that people are out there teaching. And so to me, it's not the best way to build a coaching or consulting business. If you're Here's an example. I saw a doctor one day in a Facebook group. I was doing a presentation to a huge Facebook group, and she messaged me after and she said, "Where have you been for the last 3 years?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I'm talking about getting high-end clients. And she said, "I've gone broke in this industry trying to make it." And I said, "What are you selling?" And she said, "I have this," I don't know if it's $9.97 or $97 course or whatever in a Facebook group. And I said, "What was your background?" And she said, "I have a PhD in IT." I just about cried. I thought, and you're in there trying to sell some silly little course, going broke because you're not selling anything significant enough to make any kind of money. If I could have, helped her, she could have easily brought in probably $250,000, $150,000 clients, maybe even much more. But because she fell into what everybody is out there teaching, she never could make a go of it. And by then she was so burned out, and she had sold her home. It was a crazy, sad story.
Me. Yeah. It's the unknown unknowns is what I like to say, like just what people just don't know.
You don't
And
know. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have what a lot of people don't know right now.
And that's why I love to get on podcasts and talk about this, because it's a game changer for people when they do it. Now, I just wanna say, having those little bitty courses and stuff, those are great scale strategies. They're fine. You're making your million, or you've got enough clients, you can get clients anytime you want, you're working with these high dollar clients. Now you've got money to build a team and build your little course, and you've got the money and the resources to get that up and going. Absolutely, that can be passive revenue, but most people try to start with that, and that's where the mistake comes in. But it is a great scale strategy, but it's not the fastest path if you're really wanting to build something.
Yeah, you need that foundation. You need to build up. You need to build up the cash reserves, build up the
Right.
clients, build up the process, that proven process you need to prove first, and then you can scale it from there.
And it's easier, to be honest, it's not any harder to go out if you're talking to the right people. It's not any harder to close a $50,000 sale. In fact, it's been easier. When I talked about the one client I had that was selling something for $1,797, and then she went out and closed the $50,000 client. That happened in 10 minutes. 10 minutes it took her to close that $50,000 client. And yet she came to me because she was struggling, because I always say, when you're working with these higher level clients, it's not about money for them. It's about shortcuts. It's about time they're going to save. It's about finding somebody. Wow, I've been looking for you that can help me with this, right? You can close this gap for me, this piece that I was missing. That's what they're looking for. When you're working with lower value clients, it's okay. Should I pay Dylan, or do I pay my electric bill? I'm not sure which one. Come on. It's just it's easier when you're closing people that money's not the issue for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I know we're getting close here. Before you go, I want to know about the LinkedIn content strategy you have going on. I looked at your LinkedIn and I said, okay, she clearly knows what she's doing here. So I'd love to get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So it does vary a little bit. The main thing with LinkedIn is you do want to have a strategy. What are you trying to accomplish? And a lot of people don't start with LinkedIn this way. And then everything gets set up for that. And it doesn't mean you can't change down the road. But let's say, for example, I want to go after chiropractors and I want to help chiropractors build websites and build their digital presence. Okay. Then my whole LinkedIn profile should be set up for them for that, with what it is I do, showing them how I do things differently from other people. And so that would be the foundational piece that you would use. And then what are you trying to actually get them to do? What are you trying to get them to buy? So you first figure out what's the end game here? What's the end goal that I'm trying to accomplish on LinkedIn? And then then you reverse engineer and everything gets set up for that. And so if I wanted to change to something else down the road, CFOs or whatever, I could do that. But then everything has to be changed. So the first thing is get positioned right on LinkedIn. And then what is going to be the strategy that you're going to use to get right in front of them? And again, this is going to vary. It just depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach high level CEOs, they're not hanging out on LinkedIn. They might even have VAs running their LinkedIn profile, but you can still leverage LinkedIn by using their email, reaching them that way, having the right process. So there's no one size fits all here. I help people customize their strategy for who they're trying to get to. And then we build it out on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. So
Mm. Where are people getting it wrong in LinkedIn? What's one thing that they could change to get right?
if you just optimized your profile in the right way for who you want and showed that you are very different, and then you
Mhm.
go and connect with the people that you want and you have the right message to connect with them so they will want to connect with you, just that alone can often get you booked. A good example of this is I was working with a client the other day. We're moving her into the $100,000 per client range from what she's been charging, which was around 20. Now she's going to 100,000. We redid her branding, her message, everything on LinkedIn. We went out and through Sales Navigator, we were building a list. And so I was showing her on the call, okay, this person, for example, could be a potential client because we had her profile completely built out. He saw that she viewed his profile because LinkedIn shows you that. It shows you who
Mm.
viewed. He said, "Who is this person building, like looking at me?" He came back, saw what she did, and booked a call. That's how it can happen when you are so it can be a lot of different ways that people see you, even just looking at their profiles. If you're set up, you could get calls booked just like that. But you can also use outreach strategies that we have. We're big on interview and podcasts. That's a big one for us. Most of
Mhm.
my clients, how can they interview or and get right to those people? But again, there's strategy behind everything. It's not just the idea, oh, a podcast. I did a podcast for I did my podcast I did for a whole year before I ever made any money on it because I was doing the wrong strategy. Like my strategy wasn't dialed in. So those are all pieces that I help my clients dial in.
Here, I could keep going on this for days, but I know that we both got to get out of here. And where can people go to learn more about you? And we'll link everything in the description as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are wanting to just connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can book a call if you want some help in your business to 3 to 10 times your revenue. You can book a call at acarden.com. But if you want to actually build a coaching or consulting business, I talk about building a $500,000 beyond business. You can go to expertinu.biz, and that is a free training that you can grab and so you can see my process.
Love it. And I'm going to link all that stuff below. But Ann, I appreciate you coming out today and let me drill you with the questions.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you so much.
Love it.
Hey, if you're still listening, hopefully you got some value out of this or amusement. Either way, I really appreciate you for listening. My goal with this podcast is to build something of value while also showing others that it's possible to do the same. And what I mean by that is I'm not perfect at this. I fumble, I stutter, and I just want to show that it's okay. If you've been putting something off, this is me telling you to go for it. So I need your help in growing this, and there's two main ways a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and two is through word of mouth. So I can only do it with your help. If you can leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as post this to your social, it doesn't grow without you. Thank you. Talk to you all next week.